Members of the House, I welcome you to what is the 10th Grand Campus Tourney debate of the 177th session of the Literary and Scientific Society. Another week of activity. Yesterday we met here in the Senate room with our 10th guest speaker of the semester and our 9th and final lit talk with former Speaker of Northern Ireland Assembly Alex Maskey. And let me just say, for someone who has ex-Mass in his name, he certainly has the gift of the gab. Then we are gathered here tonight in the Senate room for what is our 10th Grand Campus Tourney debate in collaboration with QB Motorsports. I'd like to formally welcome them to tonight's debate. And I'm sure, just like the sport that's in discussion tonight, we will have a very high octane debate on our hands. The point of the Grand Campus Tourney is to give you all a taste of what our weekly Literary meetings are like. So we shall begin with President's Questions. This is your chance to ask me, your President, any question you can come up with. But of course, there are two important caveats that we stick to. There are to be no questions of my politics, and of course, no questions about my sex life or lack thereof. So, do we have any President's Questions tonight? Yes, Finn?
What do you have for breakfast?
For breakfast, so it's an F1 debate. And I was looking around for different places in Belfast where I could eat breakfast. I don't know if any of you guys saw, but Lavery's are actually doing an F1 themed pub called Libraries. It is it's not a gastro pub, rather it's a gasoline pub, and instead of bartenders they have car tenders. But I ate an F1 car because I thought it looked really good. However, unfortunately, like this joke, by the end of it, I was quite tired. It was a bit of a drag. In fact, did you know that all the letters of the alphabet had a race in F1 cars? And of course, F1. Sorry guys, I seem to have rustled a few feathers, but these puns has to be done. So we'll move on to our next question. Yes, Ray?
If you could eat any food in the dark, what would it be?
If I could eat any food in the dark? Oh. I would eat a carrot, because the more of it I ate, the better I could see. There you go. Any other President's Questions? Yes, Ben?
What do you think is the greatest sport of all time?
Well, obviously I'm supposed to be impartial, but I believe that football is the greatest sport of all time, which might be an argument which is made tonight, I'm not sure. Any other President's Questions? You're all shy. Yes, Gavin?
Because, as we all know, you support the greatest football team of all time.
Of course.
Who is your favourite player of all time?
Who's my favourite player of all time? Oh, that's a good question. I think it doesn't have to be a Liverpool player, I suppose. I actually really liked. So in my youth club, we always got involved in five-a-side competitions, and we had a kit that was way too big for us because we were on a budget, Ballykelly, youth club. But it had blue and black stripes. So it reminded me of like the Inter Milan kit, and I really like R9 Ronaldo, who famously played for Inter Milan. So he's probably one of my favourite players. Yeah, there you go. Any other President's Questions? Yes, DC?
What brand tissues are you going to use to wipe your tears whenever they're going smack the old traffic on Sunday?
That's not happening. It's not happening. I'll have to give you tissues instead. Yeah. Any other President's Questions? Going once? Yes, Alexander.
Stick with football, or Liverpool going to get Champions League?
100% we're going to get Champions League. I have hope, I have faith. Aston Villa will hopefully win the Europa League as well to get the 6th spot, but we won't need that because we're currently 5th. We're going to batter United at the weekend, and then that'll move us up into 4th. So it'll be sweet.
What part of the organization slot gives you faith? Where do you get faith from?
I just have faith at this stage, to be honest. I mean, one of the reasons I was slot in before the Champions League knockout match was because I thought if we bring a new manager in, he would try to play a completely different tactic that none of the players would be familiar with. And then Slot repaid my faith by playing in the first leg against PSG a completely different tactic that none of the players were familiar with. So, which is quite funny because he said we'd always set up to play against PSG. But The players are giving me faith. Dominic Sabosloy will carry the team on his back and we will get there. Any other President's questions? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're on to private members' business then. This is your chance as members of the House tonight to ask anything that you want to gauge the other members' opinions on, be it something you've seen in the news recently or something of particular interest to you. So, do we have any private members' business in the House tonight? Yes, sir.
Given that I was eating soup potato fries earlier, I would like to know the House's opinion on the best way to eat chips.
Yeah. What's the best way to eat chips? As someone who lives in the hub, I expect a good answer from Matthew.
With our mouths.
Now that raises several questions. How else were you to eat chips? Maybe to answer that one. Anyone else on how to eat chips? To go a bit more in depth than just using your mouth? Yes, Emily?
So I think it depends on what type of chips you, because you had sweet potato fries earlier. But like obviously onion chips, you can have like cheesy chips, garlic cheesy chips, you know, there are taco chips. It really does depend on the variation of chip. But normally, unless you're Owen and wrong, you will have them with some sort of sauce. Because otherwise it's just, you know, very dry. And you just kind of, you need something with them.
Thank you. To defend himself and feels right to go on.
Yeah, I think this has been a trend lately. I have to add that the additions I add onto my food, because we were at McDonald's yesterday and I put, as I do, the salt right, so I put a pack of salt in it and they said like, oh, you're going to give yourself a heart attack with that. And I was going to dispute that, and then I felt like something came in my chest afterwards, so I decided to take one for the team and just not refute it.
Okay, fair enough. So just out of pure spite, we're going to continue to eat the chips dry. Fair enough. Anyone else on how they like to eat their chips? Yes, Glenn?
Cooked. Good start now.
Fair enough. Does anyone else have any points on that? Or shall I go? Yes, right?
Waffle fries.
Waffle fries.
And there's Chick-fil-A's waffle fries with Chick-fil-A sauce. Or curly fries from Jack in the Box. Curly fries are quite fucking good.
Not bad. Okay. Matthew?
All it wasn't about chips, sorry, it was a separate thing.
Okay. Well, does anyone have any other points about chips or any form of potato
Can I take it away?
food? You can.
Class. Something serious actually, about the recent sort of like mass firings of staff from Queen's coffee shops and stuff on campus. Was just wondering the House's thoughts on that, considering it's a pretty prevalent issue at the minute in relation to the campus.
Yeah, anyone on that? Yes, Tom?
I'm not completely informed on the matter, but I would say people are kind of overlooking the fact that yes, obviously these coffee shops are being closed as they currently are. As I understand it, it's one big company running these. My understanding is, and someone can correct me, perhaps it's just they are terminating the contract with these with this cafe company because they're, you know, delinquents on aspect. We all know that Junction's better than all three of them combined. So perhaps it's just a replacement of the company that's you know, leasing the sites from Queens. I'm happy to be corrected on that.
Yes, sir?
You can get into like the technical aspects of why they're doing this, but there's 2 points you need to know. You know, I'll go on. These people used to be employed by the university itself, and then for some reason the university decided to join in with the mass. It's already a private, but they decided to privatize. The privatizers privatize. Second of all, you get the technical reasons about why they've done this, but these are people's jobs at stake, and there's been, you can kind of want to sympathize with the company for whatever reason, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, these are still people with jobs, people whose livelihoods are at stake with this. And at the end of the day, these are people working in the worst field nowadays, and that's hospitality. Under contracts that aren't worth the paper they're written on. So this house should stand in full solidarity with those workers. And there was a few members of the house, myself, Emily, Ari, Baker and Matthew Spratt were at the protest. We were at the protest showing solidarity, cross, yes, of course, and it was like extraordinary show of solidarity. And who wasn't there? The Tory in the room today.
Thank you for that. I can't wait for Calvin and the edits to go, oh, and Emily redacted. We're all at the protests today. Yes, Tom?
Well, I must say, I wasn't at the protest because I was testing my flat computer back at home, which didn't work, by the way. But I would say, now obviously my heartfelt sorrows were the people that did lose their jobs, and it's not a nice thing to lose your jobs. But obviously there are reasons in which people do lose their jobs in corporate restructuring. It's because the company is unable to sustain the position. And though you can feel really sorry for these people, and though it is our moral obligation to, provide support in the way we can, it doesn't mean that companies have the obligation to uphold an unsustainable business, because the stakes of other people's jobs, the stakes are that other people's jobs are at risk if your business is unsustainable.
Thank you, Tom. I mean, just looking at this, obviously a lot of people with their hands up, but I must say, looking at the speakers tonight, it feels like I'm staring at an unsolved Rubik's Cube with your blue shirt on. You should be on the other side of these two in the same uniform. Yes, Emily?
I think, obviously, I was talking about corporate restructuring, but I do think that company-wide should hear people, the workers talk about how they've been mistreated, like basically people who, have had like medical issues and needed to go away, they'll come back and they've had a job. That's not on, that's not how you treat someone, especially if they're doing hours of overtime, hours of work, a lot of them class as casual workers, even though they're like on it's basically full-time work. It's not on, they should deserve, all the protections, all the they deserve all of the legal backing, that should be given to anyone in full-time employment. And I think we should really stand up to them.
Thank you. We'll work down to one.
In no way is the need of the common man to confident and unsustainable business. We must, as I said, we must stand with the common man and stand with the coffee shops, and not stand with the man with the Austro-Hungarian coat of arms on his laptop today.
Thank you. Calvin, do you want to follow that?
I definitely agree in principle with what this side of the house has said. I do suspect that this is a topic from which we all have very passionate feelings and gut reactions, but with none of us actually appear to know the fine details of any of this. What I will say is that, to my understanding, the company that was running the cafe in the library and in the NBC was Clements, which was a Northern Irish coffee chain, which at one point had dozens of chains, dozens of locations all around the country, and has been slowly shrinking over the years. I think COVID hit them particularly hard. And as far as I'm aware, these were the last 4 posts. So I would suspect that whilst it's entirely possible a certain institution has once again done something very unworker friendly, it's also possible that the company was just on its last legs. What I will say, whilst we don't know the specifics of this, what I can tell you definitively is that in the old SU, the shop was not as far, it was the SU shop that was run, as far as I'm aware, managed by the SU to some extent itself. Talk about privatisation, as far as I can tell, Queen's just went, meh, spar now, you can give us money and sell stuff. So that's a clear-cut example of Queen's just seemingly cutting jobs it didn't need to cut. But I quit in fear as I see Tom's hands just shut up.
No, thank you for that. The library coffee shop's called Hope, isn't it?
It's Hope, but it wasn't Clements.
It's all right, Clements.
It's not Hopeless.
Which is quite funny, because usually when I go to the Clay Library, I have no Hope.
Hey.
It reminded me also of your my favourite K-pop band, it's like with your shirt.
Oh shit.
Blackpink.
Blackpink, yeah.
Yes, right?
They were done.
Yeah, agree with Calvin. I was going to say, obviously, it's owned by Clements, and Clements, well, it's just fucking shit. Even the whole cafe was shit. No one actually bought the food in there. I'm not gonna lie. I always just bought my own food and took it in there. The hot chocolate, that was fine, but the sandwiches, the pre-prepared sandwiches, it was just shit. I don't really care about other people losing their jobs. I'm not gonna lie. I don't give a shit anymore.
That's a lot of portion.
But fuck it. I don't care.
Shall we do a motion? Shall we extend the motion to the house? I know this hand's going up. This house, Leaves Hope Cafe, is good. What's good? Okay, we have to say what's good.
No, I'd like to propose an amendment to that actually.
What's that?
This house stands in solidarity with the workers that are losing their jobs.
You can do a second motion.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Okay, but this house supports Hope Cafe. All those, and Emily seconded it, all those for proposition.
That's a big.
Yeah, what we support.
That's right, hang on.
So that's 4.
Why are you taking this?
No, I'm just doing this.
I'll be it first. Do we have any on the opposition for this house supports Hope Cafe? Oh, okay. 3 on the opposition. And then who would like to abstain on this motion?
I'm feeling woke today.
7?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the results of that are 4 on the prop, 3 on the op, and 7 abstentions. So due to the abstentions winning, the motion falls.
No.
Can I make a point of order, please?
Yes.
I just want to re-characterise appropriately the remarks made by Mr. O'Neill. I was not protesting today. I've never partook in a protest. I was speaking to my favourite communist, Owen. The only communist that I would classify as a favourite. But Anna was also with me, I don't speak for her, but she was also not part of the protest. So I've never protested. I'm not really into that. I have too much stuff to do. I don't have much free time. But I respect the workers, and I respect Owen.
Yes, Owen.
I'll actually read out because no, you weren't at the protest. You were speaking at the protest. I'm not. I will. This is all being transcribed. This is going on Belfast Telegraph tonight. I am Matthew Spratt. I've always and will always support the working man and the common labour struggle and the unification of this island at the end of the
You didn't read it in the proper Spratt way. I am Matthew Spratt. I work for the workers of the coffee shops. One time we were playing the classic game Fish Goal, and your name was in the hat. And Reverend Ian Paisley's name was in the hat. I pulled out Ian Paisley and started doing a Paisley impression, and both Chloe and Rachel and Beth at the exact same time all went, Matthew Spratt! And I was like, no, it's not him. Yes, Flynn.
I have to agree with Ray on Clem's being generally awful food. I once went to a Clem's cafe in Belfast. I got a sausage roll and it was completely burnt on the bottom. Like completely burnt. Like it had been dipped in a volcano. And then I also got an iced coffee and it just tasted like, I don't know. It
Doesn't it taste like coffee?
it was just like you could see through it. That's how bad it was.
How can you support that one?
Right. Calvin?
I actually agree with Ray. As a vegan, they're just terrible places. I mean, I think the cafe in the SDA had a tomato soup for a while and then they switched it to potato leek, which had milk. So I could not have soup for ages, and I remember that was the day that I was strongly against any type of that cafe ever.
Interesting, thank you. Yes, so.
You'll see the on the top of the sausage rolls. You'll see the command of the house. The sausage rolls at the chaplaincy. I cannot recommend them enough. You should all go.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Beth.
I think this is unnecessary slander because the coffee has always been fine, and the scones were the best in the library. But I didn't really have the library scones. I had them once in first year and they were great, and for some reason I went again. But also, Junction has the best sausage rolls, and they are really affordable and they taste better than Greg's. And I also always see everybody in here in Junction, so that's kind of point off of it for sure.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree actually. Yes, Matthew?
Well, the Catholic Chapel say sausage rolls are integrated, they're $5.99.
Yeah, but a percentage of that goes to your indulgence if you buy meat sausage.
I can donate with the car machine and it gets me 10 days out of purgatory.
Yes, Tom?
Well, I was going to say, as a response to Beth, I don't think we should settle for fine. I think we should settle for the Catholic Chaplaincy's Cafe. It just recently opened on Monday, and I would recommend it to you all, but I'm a very selfish man, and I would want to keep it all for myself.
This debate appears to be brought to you by the Catholic Chaplaincy Cafe. And here you go. That's right.
Yeah, so like any religious institution like that serves food, I'm no way to hell in going there because that's how they get you. Which is why I never set foot in the hub, and why I will never set foot in the Catholic chaplaincy as well, because that is how they convert you.
Raise with your stance. Clear? Yes, Beth?
I do like the Catholic chaplaincy and the hub, but I prefer the hub because in first year I got brought accidentally on a date to the Catholic chaplaincy. And it was very, very exciting for me. As someone who's freshly in Belfast, I did not understand what was going on. But the food is also better in the hub, even though the pancakes are a little bit dry.
Thank you. Yes, Emily?
I can assure you they're not converting anybody through the Catholic chaplaincy. I mean, Matthew's part himself got a tool. Sorry, but as a Jew, I have to be careful. I mean, Inquisition, like, that's just...
Fool me once. Yes,
just a massive point with the 5 pound sausage rolls. This is just a further example of how much of a strong supporter of the common man and the labour movement he indeed is.
Yeah. I love how this is like Lutherfic heritage, where we started about workers' rights and protests, and have now devolved into which chaplaincy has the best sausage rolls and coffee on campus. Yes, Calvin?
I will say though that pub does an amazing deal of the £2 coffees on Monday and Wednesday mornings before 11 o'clock. But the Catholic chaplaincy does have this amazing Coke lime coconut drink. It's so good. If there's any reason to go, even if they do convert you, it is worth it because you get to drink that. That's just my opinion. But
I need it.
Bethany had one this morning.
And of course, as the Presbyterian I am, in classic Presbyterian fashion, I'll just choose whether the chaplaincy has the cheapest offers.
You're the big man to go whatever happens.
As a cafe connoisseur, I do recommend going to Kinderfolk up on the Stranraer Road. It's really, really nice. I went there one day. I also recommend going to the neighbourhood, which is in Belfast, which I find quite nice. Yeah, so that's my cafe recommendations. Oh, and also there's one on beside the chaplaincy called Sojourn.
That's Presbyterian.
Okay, well, okay. See, I know what to go to.
The Trojan horse of the chaplaincies. I'll go in here, Sojourn seems really nice.
You know, just give me so many cafes. Go to the cafe. Yes. Go to the Clemens cafes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alexander.
Yeah, I think the real to be the best coffee are buns. I think First Carver Presbyterian Church. Services are 11 every Sunday, and there's great coffee and buns to be had, so please feel free. You get salvation as well, so
That is, of course, with the stipulation that you have to travel to Garva in the first place to go there. And of course, we all know that Garva is so backward in civilization that they still have the pyramids in that place. Yes, Owen?
Just on the topics of cafes and religious institutions, it was £3 for water at the Sinn Féin Ardesh.
Yes. Was it? I think you're just normal.
What?
I think you're confused. Sinn Féin is not a religious institution.
I like to imagine the Good Friday talks going like this. You know, oh yeah, Martin, you should try out the hub. They do really good sausages. I know Ian, the coffee's pretty good in the Catholic chaplaincy.
Well, the hub is the Church Martin Chaplaincy is over 150 years old, so David Trimble could have been there, John Hume could have been there, Owen and I have been there, so a lot of big discussions happened. James Turrish, my favourite papist, was there. So, a lot of good stuff comes out of our ecumenicalism.
You guys should start podcasting there.
Oh, don't give my heads. What would you call it?
Ooh. I have to come up with a maybe like Crossroads or something like that. Yes, Tom?
Well, as many of you know, it's the Catholic belief in transubstantiation, which means that we believe the Eucharist, the bread, is the substance changes to the actual body of Christ. So therefore, when our chapel gets dedicated and when we have consecrated hosts and that, we will be able to say that Jesus Christ is in our cafe. So I think there is no better argument for a cafe than that.
Yeah, like that'll go really nicely along with the 5-star food rating rating of the film. I think we should change your name tonight from Tory Tom to Purgatory Tom. Yes, Jonathan?
Just a note that the Protestants have this belief where, you know, they don't have to go through, for instance, a priest for confession. They can just pray straight to God, and that the Holy Spirit and Jesus' presence is everywhere. And in consubstantiation, you know, it is spiritually it's present, not physically. So we don't even have to consecrate a place to say that Jesus is there. We just do it already. Like, you guys have to go 1 or 2 extra steps. It's quite sad.
There we go. Yes, Owen?
I think it's very similar to Tom's other belief, not religious, that the coffee workers physically become unemployed.
Thank you. Yes, Matthew.
Just, oh Jesus, what thinking? Oh yeah, I do remember my point now. Jonathan, what? Yeah, Jonathan said about going straight to God. It's a revolutionary idea. Literally, it was revolutionary. That's why we had the Reformation. So you could just try going straight to God. It's quite beneficial.
There we go. And you said you didn't like protests earlier.
This is true.
Yes.
If they're in it, they're in it.
Well, it's clearly established. I was like, what are you speaking of?
Do we have any closing points on that to wrap up our what began with workers' rights discussion, developed into coffee and sausage rolls, and somehow wrapped around to an ecumenical dialogue? Yes, Calvin?
I wanted to very briefly slip in a new PMB. So
go for it.
Well, Tom, did you have something to say on?
Oh, it was just a comment. You can go ahead.
First of all, I do agree with you. Coffee in let's cross the London exception. What's it called? Someone help me.
Junction.
Yes, very briefly. Apologies if no one has any opinions on this, but it seems everywhere I go in Belfast now, I'm confronted with an advertisement for a KFC 16-piece bucket of popcorn chicken, and I just want to know if what has opinions on this are. Is that an incredible deal, and we should all be rushing out to buy a 16-piece bucket of popcorn chicken, or is that too much for any one person to eat?
How much is it?
Let's say $5.99.
Really?
That's really cheap. No, that sounds really cheap.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's surprisingly cheap. It's no more than £6.
There's a man who weekly eats a family-sized lasagna for dinner. That sounds like a challenge, which I'm very happy to accept. That is a perfect way to
was coming there.
Yes.
Solve Calvin's dilemma, I believe that KFC is degenerate.
No, I don't agree with that.
I mean, I could come up with a KFC bun like that, but I would be winging it. Yes, Owen?
Yeah, it seems to echo the views of the workers' rights man now. KFC is absolutely awful. I don't get it's here. I feel like I get food poisoning every time I get it. I do get like the least greasy on the menu, and that is like the popcorn chicken. Like I can't possibly understand how popular it is.
This is a hot take for me, but I believe if KFC had the same facilities as McDonald's, it would be better than McDonald's. I think the menu's a lot stronger band for band. Yes, Emily?
I think, you know, I live in the rural countryside, and KFC I think is just generally better than because, you know, I think we have a nice army guy from here, so he runs it like the Navy. But the 16-piece bucket is £5.99. That is confirmed on the website. And I think honestly it's shaped kind of have to put down as it is.
Thank you. Beth?
I think I agree. Like paying any money for KFC is too much money. And I think bringing McDonald's is really interesting because you can taste that McDonald's is like one step away from like not food. But weirdly enough, I like it more than KFC, which I can taste is real chicken. Just not. I think it's too salty. It's too much sodium. There's only one like. I like gravy, but I don't want to have the KFC sauce all the time. Whatever it is, and whatnot. And it's also. Yeah, it's bad. It's worse in Dublin, unfortunately.
Like the city of Dublin?
Nastiest KFC in Dublin. And I wasn't in one of the worst areas of Dublin, sure. But like, it was just like bones in my chicken.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, one?
Actually, that's not going to work.
You workshop the pan?
Yeah, I was going to make a Israel chicken.
Huh? Well, the effort was there. Also,
you admit that.
Your podcast could perhaps be called Hebrews. Ooh, there you go. That's a recycled problem. Do you have a point, DC?
I don't really want.
Fair enough. Typically United support. Yes, Tom?
If I may sneak this in to the end, because I find it something quite interesting. The Welsh election is next week, I think. And last night you had the Welsh leaders debate. So I was wondering, especially since there's a strong connection between the Welsh elections currently and the politics up here in Northern Ireland, because, for example, as I found out from Owen, the leader of Plaid Cymru, Rhys Llywarth, gave a speech in the Sinn Féin conference, and then also in the debate last night, Sinn Féin was mentioned and talks about Welsh independence. So I'm curious to hear what the House's thoughts generally, maybe on Welsh independence, but also the election generally.
Good, thank you, Tom. Yes, Ray.
From what I remember, there's a cross kind of vote to abolish Wales, so why are we talking about it?
Well, let's entertain this hypothetical. Tom, where would you be from if you were from Wales? It's a good question.
If I was from Wales, this fictional land, I would be from Monmouthshire, which is on the border with England.
Oh, very interesting. So it's on the assumption that Wales does exist, just for this one PMB. Any thoughts on that? Yes, Jonathan?
I think Plaid Cymru is going to win, and when they win, Wales will finally take back Oswestry Street and maybe also Chester from the evil English and French and the evil and what's his name? Your lad who went missing in the 1500s will come back and defend Wales when
Mike Dower, yes.
Raymond Dower is going to come back and lead Plaid Cymru to victory, and then they're going to get independence. And then the economy will crash. But until the economy crashes, it will be brave.
Nice, yeah, it's happening. Matthew?
I can't really see Plaid Cymru winning, because when their leader got an interview the other day, the interviewer had to ask him, how do you actually pronounce your name? So I don't really think they are standing. I actually don't know anything about Plaid Cymru, to be honest, but the question based on that, I think they would struggle surely.
Any other points on that? Yes, Glenn?
I think England should take over Monmouthshire and also Wrexham, because Wrexham doesn't sound Welsh at all. It sounds like it belongs in England.
Neither does Newport, so I think
they'll take over that as well.
Yeah.
England.
No, there's not.
Yes, Nixie?
If the Welsh are looking very prepared, I'd say we all work for Mom.
Yeah, pretty good. And Lauren, maybe.
I'm on.
Yes.
I think that if it's 3 out of the, assuming that we count care as kind of like an English person for the sake of this hypothetical, if like 3 out of the 4 heads of government in the union are if 3 out of the 4 like heads of government in the union are, you know, like explicitly separatist, that there's no way that the union itself will be like a long-lasting political, you know, thing. Because the SNP clearly have been able to survive things like, you know, I don't know, like Shanker could survive. And I think Plaid will shortly shoot themselves into that position. Sinn Féin obviously isn't going anywhere here. So I think that this is, that next Thursday, whatever Thursday it is, will be an inflection point in the end of the union, and thank God for that.
Thank you. I'll take the final 2 hands in the air. Who's going to members with us?
I think, I agree that, like, if hypothetically, if Wales did exist, and there was a nationalist first minister in Wales and also Scotland, and also in Northern Ireland, I think, the union would be in serious danger, I think, but I think also that should the question of independence come up again, I think it needs to be handled very carefully. I think Scotland rushed into it too fast. And I think the other nations can learn a lot from how the Scottish referendum went. And I think, it needs a lot of planning, a lot of careful planning. I think genuinely if, in the next year or 2, the union is in a lot of danger.
Thank you. Yes, Jonathan?
Is it not ironic that the death of the union will come as a direct response to the austerity policies created by the Conservative and Unionist Party?
And then I suppose since you started private members' business, I'll take Matthew and then Tom to close. Yes.
I just think it's really appropriate to remember we can discuss all these concepts of independence and all that nonsense and unification and stuff, but our sovereign's still on the wall and he's not going anywhere. So we're going on that basis.
And then to close, Tom?
Yeah, just to provide some insight, it does look, according to the polling, that it seems like it's probably likely to be a Plaid Labour minority government. I would say that I wouldn't accuse the Conservative Party of being responsible for the breakup of the Union. Considering since devolution started, Labour has been in power in Wales, and you can very clearly see the consequences of that if you live in Wales. For example, my local hospital, my local minor injuries unit, Neville Hall, closed down. So the nearest A&E I have is about 40 minutes away. And I don't live in a particularly rural area. It's 40 minutes away. And nonetheless, it was an A&E that is, the only A&E available is an A&E that wasn't even built to be an A&E. So they retrofitted an A&E to this hospital. And the average wait times is 7 to 12 hours. But like the problems with the NHS waiting list being much longer than in England isn't the least of the problems. The Labour government have just conducted full economic mismanagement of Wales. They've wasted money wasted money spending our money on Welsh overseas mini embassies when it's not the Welsh government's responsibility to open embassies. They haven't focused on what their devolution powers granted to them, and when they have, they've allocated it incompetently. And you can see the failures in Wales when you contrast it with England. And so it's not the Conservative and Unionist party that is responsible for the discontent in Wales, it is the party that has been in charge for the past 20 years, I think.
Thank you, Tom. I'm sure we could all talk about Wales until the cows come home, but of course we wouldn't want to drag it on. So we shall move now to our vote of prior opinion and the exhibition of tonight's debate. Just to remind you, the motion is this House believes F1 is the greatest sport of all time. So could I have all those who agree with that statement to please raise their hands now. That is 3. And can I have all those who like to vote for the opposition of the vote of prior opinion and disagree with that statement to raise their hands now, please. Well, yes. And then finally, can I have all those who wish to abstain on the vote on prior opinion raise their hands now, please. It's 3. So the results from the vote on prior opinion are 3 for the proposition, 12 for the opposition, and 3 abstentions, which means the opposition takes it. And now a quick run through of our rules. Speakers will take it in turns on the proposition and the opposition to approach the podium and deliver 7-minute speeches. The first minute of their speech and the last minute of their speech is protected time, which means for those 5 minutes in between they have unprotected time as designated by our bell. Helen, right? Thank you, which means during those 5 minutes they're susceptible to POIs or points of information. This is your chance to challenge the speakers in real time on any points they make during their speech. To do so, simply raise your hand and shout on that point of information or POI. It is then to the speaker's discretion whether they accept or reject your POI. Please keep your POI short, no longer than 15 seconds, and of course make sure to leave 15 seconds in between the POI being offered, otherwise that is barking. Don't worry, I will let you know with my trusty gavel. And with that, start your engines as we welcome first on the proposition, Beggar to the podium, please.
Members of the House, Daniel, hot, sweaty men. That is F1 in a nutshell. Now, what unites me and Tom, 2 men in their peak physical male state? And the answer to that is the ability to sit on a couch with a large bag of popcorn and American fat person Coke and watch 22 sweaty men drive around a track because, members of the House, what other sport allows you to never actually do it? The ability to sit back and judge multi-millionaires from your mold-infested Boolean's apartment while their cars being systematically destroyed by crack addicts on Damascus is all part of the fun. Now, cast your minds back to 2021, where Lewis Hamilton was absolutely robbed the World Drivers' Championship by Max Verstappen in Abu Dhabi. There was me, rocking on the sofa with my friends, heroically calling out what is arguably the greatest injustice in the history of sport. And it is the only sport in the world where the viewers are given so much input into the inner workings of the game. No other game gives you so much data to pore over as a fan. Everything from brake temperatures to time wear is given to you on little screens, so that you two can roleplay as a well-paid mechanic. One of the greatest motorsport teams in the world, in karts as well, obviously. Now I'm going to segue a little bit. So, in the words of Nihal Bhatt, anybody who knows Nihal Bhatt, great guy. In the words of him, close your eyes and imagine imagine that I'm a homosexual. Weirdly, nobody closed your eyes there, which is a little bit of a shame. Thank you for this rant, thank you. And you know, what would I want more than to watch 22 men who, like me and Tom, are in their peak physical health? It really is a stuff of dreams, all from the comfort of your own home, your own house, your own homeland apartment. Now, I know that the opposition will be touting all kinds of arguments such as, oh, well, you can't partake in this, and all they do is just sit there and do nothing. But as my team, Tom and Beth, wearing a Mega Base McLaren t-shirt, will explain, this is not at all the essence of Formula One. No. On a grassroots level, Formula One sports developing drivers from a very young age. While stakes may not be the same, and the race may be less exciting, karting is the way to the sport is all the more fun. While football is the same rules, so whether you're a pro or a beginner, part of the joy of motorsport is that the rules are constantly changing. And depending on the level of sport, think Formula 2, Formula 3, and on the season, petrol heads like Beth and Tom, they take no greater joy than poring over all of the new rules for the upcoming season, crafted because one naughty little engineer found a way to cheat the rules. When you think back to 1981, think back to what Wikipedia has to say about the Lotus 88. The 88 used an ingenious system of having a twin chassis, one inside the other. The inner chassis would hold the cockpit and would be independently sprung from the outer one, which was designed to take the pressures of ground effects. The outer chassis did not have discernible wings and was in effect one huge ground effect system, beginning just behind the nose of the car and extending all the way inside the rear wheels, thereby producing massive amounts of downforce. Obviously, massively illegal, until recently, massively illegal. But you know, it's what happens, you know, what they think of and what they come up with ways around the rules. That's the fun of the game, that's half the fun of it. And that is the beauty of it. The sport evolves not in years or in decades, but in arguments. Every season it's a high-speed legal dispute between geniuses like me and Tom. You've got teams like Red Bull Racing, Mercedes-AMG, they're hiring the greatest minds on earth, not just to go faster, but to interpret the rulebook like it's a suspiciously flexible rear-wing suggestion. And we the viewers, we get to sit there, candy floss in hand, declaring, well, obviously that diffuser is illegal, as if we ourselves are wearing yesterday's clothes and haven't moved in 3 hours. But that is the magic. F1 makes you feel involved. You're not just watching, you're analysing, you're critiquing, you're yelling box, box, box at the television as if Valtteri Bottas can hear you personally.
On that point,
go ahead.
Surely we could sit and watch and critique and analyse any other sort of exciting sport.
You can if you're sad. But not this sport. This sport gives you the data to back it up. Yo, what are you critiquing the football about? His posture, the way that he kicks the ball. With Formula 1 you can look and you can say, Valtteri, what are you doing with that steering wheel? Why are you gripping it so tightly? Hamilton, what are you doing with your fingers behind it when you start? Are you clicking it in the button? You know, you can see that on the data. Thank you. Wow. And let's not ignore the sheer absurdity of the physical side. Yes, the drivers are sitting down, and some people think it's a bad thing, but so is Daniel's belly, and nobody's saying that that's relaxing. No one's saying Daniel has it easy. It is gamble in the suit. You know, that's hard work. These are athletes who, like Daniel's belly, lose kilos in sweat. They train their necks like they're preparing for combat. They attend fittirific life events. And they somehow maintain composure while travelling faster than Owen O'Neill when he hits some Jerry Adams is nearby. I read this before this happened, but more appropriately, if there's a workers' strike, you're all over that. And meanwhile, we're on the sofa, bravely opening another tub of coffee and candy. And the drama goes in the house. The drama is unmatched. You don't just get a result, you get controversy, you get politics, you get heartbreak.
On that point, surely that's just your average lyric.
Yes, and that's why we're drawing comparisons between Formula 1 and this glorious throne that we see Daniel sat upon. You know, they're almost the same, just without the data. The data is what makes the sport, it's what makes you get involved. You get Gunther Steiner, Fox smashing a door, you get Nikita Mazepin doing what he does. It's an art. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, Formula 1 understands something that no other sport quite grasps. The sport is entertainment, it's there to be enjoyed, it's there to be watched, it is a spectacle, noise, tension, chaos, it's all of that. So when the opposition says you can't take part in it, I say that is exactly the point. We can't take part in it, because Formula 1 is not about you doing it, it is about you witnessing the absolute peak of what Adrian Newey can build, control, and occasionally mess up. And that's all while you sit there judging, snapping, cotton candying, living your best life on your holy land sofa. And who cares about your car outside? Nobody. And honestly, you know, that what would be better than that? You know, just absolutely nothing. I'm at the end of my script now. Can I have POIs? Is that a thing? Anybody want POI? Anyone not these one POI? Anybody doesn't know anything about Formula 1 with a POI? No,
Who's your favourite driver?
Valtteri Bottas.
Why?
Because when he was, you wait for this, buddy. Because Valtteri Bottas was robbed of his chance to win. He was second place to Lewis Hamilton all his life. You know, no, hang on, when Nicholas Latifi went into that wall in 2021, that was an injustice that Valtteri Bottas should have been there to correct. Alexander, quick.
Did you buy his Notari calendar?
No, I bought signed coffee from him. But if you'd like to buy me a photo of Valtteri Bottas' penis, then I'm more than happy to do that. Seems I'm doing one more, anybody one more?
I don't think I had the great joke I wore about you wearing Rowan language. Compensate for something.
Hang on, 10 seconds, Daniel. Hold on. Right, okay. Matthew wrote something in my speech. He said, why would you want to get fondled by a second row rugby while sweating your head off? Or get into rowing lycra, which is far too tight, that it must be compensating for something. Trust me, I am not only the Vice President of QB Snow Sports, but I am also a rower. Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas. A very fine speech. Now to open the case to the opposition, I would like to invite DC to the podium, please.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I must admit tonight is a slightly uncomfortable position for me. I do in fact love Formula 1, I watch every race, I follow all the drama, and I've spent 2 hours watching the Grand Prix just to say afterwards, yeah, the strategy was quite interesting. But tonight, I'm going to argue that Formula 1, despite all its speed, prestige and very expensive carbon fibre, is fundamentally incapable of being the best sport of all time. Because to be the best sport in the world, you need 4 things. You need accessibility, you need fair competition, you need global and meaningful participation, and you need representation. People need to be able to see themselves in the sport, and frankly, F1 fails on all 4 fronts. I'll start with accessibility. As most sports begin with something simple, a ball, a field, and a group of willing people. F1 begins with a financial plan. You don't stumble into Formula 1, you're engineered into it, financially, structurally, and socially. Karting alone can cost tens of thousands a year. Moving up the ladder, you're in the hundreds of thousands. Reaching the top, millions. So when the other side talks about the best drivers in the world, what they really mean is the best drivers who can afford to get there. That is not meritocracy, that's a filtered pool.
On that point?
Yes.
Are you saying that Nicholas Latifi should not be in Formula 1?
Yes, I am. I want to talk about the fairness of Formula 1. In most sports, if you're better, you win. In F1, if your car is better, you win. Yes, drivers matter, but only within the limits of their machinery. Put an average driver in a dominant car, they win races, as is shown by Lando Norris scamming his way to Drivers' Championship despite not even being the best driver in the car. Now put a world-class driver in a weak car, they disappear into midfield obscurity.
On this?
Yes?
Yeah, but isn't part of the competition who can develop the best car?
I'll get into that. Now put Lando Norris in the weak car, he's now the English local sergeant. We've seen entire seasons defined before they begin, with drivers like Max Verstappen and a dominant Red Bull turning the 2023 season into a sequence of very expensive parades even the Orange Order would be proud of. And again, I know the defence, but engineering is part of the sport. Fine, but then let's be honest, it's not pure sport. That is a hybrid sport and industrial competition, and that disqualifies it from being the best sport in the world because the outcome is not primarily human. And I also, let us get into appearance. F1 is global in appearance. It does travel to glamorous cities and has fans all over the world. But participation, it only has 22 drivers now, and 11 reserve drivers from a narrow set of countries drawn from an incredibly exclusive pipeline. Compare that to truly global sports where participation happens at every level, where kids play in schools, clubs and communities, not just watch it with somebody if they can afford sketchbooks. Because the sport is not defined by how many people watch it, it's defined by how many people can be part of it. And this is where the gap becomes clear, because the best sport in the world, and at all times, should see a pathway from where people are, from the very bottom to the very top. Rugby actually does this exceptionally well, especially here in Ireland. Take the Irish provincial system, where you've got the wonderful provinces of Ulster, Connacht and Munster for real rugby fans, and the morally dubious Leinster for all the West Brits who prefer their success heavily imported. These teams aren't just elite, they're representative. They've connected. Yes?
But wouldn't you also take into account all of the rugby players who've gone to private schools like college?
If you look at the Irish rugby team now, more players come from state schools or not private schools than they do from like the Black Rockets and Berry. That's just a very small pool of answer player. It is rugby is heavily always more from just the private side of the game. But rugby does go into connect schools, clubs, communities and regions. A kid in Galway can realistically dream of playing for Connacht. A kid in Limerick can dream of playing for Munster. A kid in Auckland can dream of being shipped off to Leinster. There is a visible, structured, merit-based pathway, and now you compare that to Formula 1. Well, what is the pathway? You just be extremely talented and find several ways to quit. That is not representation, that is exclusion with good PR. And now I'll talk about entertainment, because sport, at its core, is a review of drama. Uncertainty, conflict, momentum swings. F1 does have moments of brilliance, but it is not consistently dramatic. Too often, the fastest car leads from that one. The order stabilises and then we wait for pit stops to create artificial tension. And yes, the other side will say that the strategy is part of the excitement. But think about that. In most sport, the excitement comes from what the athletes do. In F1, it often comes from what the team decides. Now that is a crucial difference. And this brings me to the key comparison. Even if you admire F1, even if you respect it, how can it possibly be the best sport in the world when rugby union exists? Rugby is accessible, physically demanding, globally played, and deeply representative. Yes?
Is it globally accessible for the people in countries that weren't colonised by the British?
You said about most sports to be fair. And it is rugby is also relentlessly unpredictable. No car advantage, no budget setting, determining outcomes, no external machinery deciding your limits, just people, skill, strength, decision making under pressure. In F1, if something goes wrong, you check telemetry. In rugby, if something goes wrong, you get broken in half by someone the size of a fridge unless brain cells and DVD order. Yes.
If something goes wrong in F1, you die. You know?
Yes, always. If something's wrong with other sport, you can die as well. There's cricket players who die because something's going wrong. That's not really the point, is it?
That's okay.
Personally, I don't understand how somebody can watch a game of rugby and think, yeah, there's something better than this. And if so, you need to get a check. Sorry. Yes.
Do you like rugby's just like, when he's in Formula 1, the hot sweaty men are kept apart by cars. Is the thing that excites about the rugby the fact that they get to like push together to one big sweaty rugby?
You might have seen me through me there, you've seen through me there, but who doesn't go fast? But I'm actually going to deal directly with what this side will say. F1 is pinnacle human performance. No, it's pinnacle combined performance, human plus machine. That is not the same thing. It has a massive global fan base, so does Netflix. That doesn't make it an amazing sport. And it's technologically advanced. Exactly, that is your problem, deal with it. The more it depends on the technology, the less it is purely a sport. So let's be clear, Formula 1 is spectacular, it is elite, and for the purposes of this argument, it is the pinnacle motorsport, even though that is debatable. But the motion is not whether F1 is impressive, it is whether it is the best sport of all time. And the best sport in the world and of all time must be open, fair, representative, and human. F1, for all its brilliance, is not really sense to the level required. So don't reject Formula 1 tonight. Just reject the idea that that's above every other sport. Because when you look at what sport is supposed to be, it doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you, DC, for that very fine speech. And now to continue the case for the proposition, I'd like to invite Tom to the podium.
Well, I haven't timed this, but we'll see how it goes. So, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We've heard from the opposition today that, F1 is not a sport. It is kind of like an industrial competition. I must say, every single sport has an aspect of technological advancement influencing the performance of athletes. The fact is, we call F1 a motor sport. Therefore, it is a sport. It qualifies for that category. You can't put it halfway between the sport category and halfway out. So we must consider it as a sport in order to assess whether or not it is the greatest sport. So, why is F1 the greatest sport of all time? Let us consider what sport is to society. For this, we must learn the first principles. We've heard many ideas about what makes a sport important from the opposition today, but I'd like to offer an alternative vision to that. We must look for sport in history. Imagine the Roman Colosseum, the arches spanning the length of the entire landing building, the magnificent Titanic construction reaching up to the stars. What an amazing sight. Below, athletes trained in many cases since childhood, fighting till the death, using their sheer physical power. The crowd scream and cheer with excitement and awe. All from Rome come to see, plebeian or noble. What made them cheer? What made them roar with excitement? What made the crowds come? What allowed unpopular Roman emperors to resolve their position by hosting games? Was it the drama, the stakes of failure and victory? Was it the impressive construction of the facade and pillars, the engineering of the Colosseum? Or was it human achievement, the standard to look up to, the example of maximum human effort and commitment, pushing up biology to its absolute limit? It is not a single reason. It is all of them. Combined to speak on sport, a sport that is miraculously able to fulfill these ideals and grant them all new meaning. No other sport has the drama, the years spent on development of an engineering miracle, where decisions, unlike the opposition would say, are life or death, down to the engineering, down to the 1 microsecond in the turn. In the 2005 Japanese Grand Prix, Fernando Alonso made a dangerous gambit in the heat of a fast, tight, overtaking engagement against Michael Schumacher. Reflecting on the battle, Alonso said, "I knew he hit the brakes because he has a wife and 2 kids. No other sport has the stakes. No other sport has the pathos. No other sport has the speed. No other sport has the story, the narrative that F1 does." Please.
What about IndyCar?
No. However, F1 still wouldn't be a greater sport without what it represents technologically. F1 represents the forefront of our achievement as the human race. It represents the sum of what we have been able to achieve as humans. Just like the Colosseum today, developments made in F1 have a direct relationship to the advancements in other areas, from high-efficiency software to aerospace engineering. Developments in connectivity, for example, McLaren pushing forward a new technology called Track Connect, which is being developed across public transport networks. If you want to check how late your Translink Metro is, you can thank McLaren for that. Sitting in the Great Northern Wall, trying to get up to your lecture that's late, you can thank McLaren for checking how late it is, please.
The Translink Metro shouldn't be late in the first place. I thank McLaren for telling me how long I'm going to have to wait.
Well, at least you can complain about how late the bus was to your friends.
This is true, I like that.
Yeah. So,
on that point.
Track Connect has also developed high-speed Wi-Fi for rail passengers and clear data for engineering teams. So while you're on the train, using the high-speed Wi-Fi, it's not that high-speed, you can thank McLaren for that, your connectivity. All other sports lack the magnitude of impact in our daily lives. Many people argue that space, developments in space have an impact on your lives because the technologies developed in space are also transferable down here to Earth. That's the same for F1. I could go on, but I think even the opposition would agree on that fact that the magnitude of change and advancement, is far superior to any other sport. But one of the things that really makes this sport quite unique is what it can push humans to do. Being able to control a car while under over 5G is not something trivial. It is an incredible feat. the reaction speed, the strength, the decision making. It is incredible. When Nicky, I mean, we've heard from the first speaker on the proposition here, Baker, who says that, you know, it isn't some small thing to just sit in a chair. But I must go one step further. It's no small thing to go under 6G of constant pressure to make the decisions in that latency. So it's very physically exerted, more physically exerted, I might say, than rugby. Something else I would like to mention was when Niki Lauda in the 1976 German Grand Prix crashed and nearly died. After his last rites were given by the priest, he said, "I thought of my 2 children and said, no, I cannot die today. I decided to survive." But the most impressive thing is that man who nearly died, who nearly burned alive, his greatest achievement was getting back in the car and racing again the next year. F1's quality is not demonstrated by the quantity of viewers or, you know, the accessibility. It is what it means for society, what standard it sets for the rest of us to live our lives in. And therefore, I have full consolation in my view that F1 is the greatest sport to ever exist. It is one of the greatest inventions in mankind. Not only because the greatest inventions created by mankind come from it, but also because the entertainment value in and of itself is incredible. Therefore, I beg to propose this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom, for that very valuable speech. And now to continue the case for the opposition, I'd like to invite Flynn to the podium, please.
Just give me a moment to set up here.
Mr. Stolly's left as soon as I came off with the podcast, mate. Rob a dog, 3 men in the hall.
Right.
All set?
All set. Right. I'm going to start with a poem I wrote for this. So, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. Formula One or Formula None. We put this to the jury tonight. A proposition of dizzying heights. A sport of danger, speed and money. I hope you find the props points funny. Witness here a debate of splendour, an opposition of grace and candour. And don't now leave out through that door. You're about to witness so much more. As we plant our points ready to grow, lights out, and away we go. So, I'll bring you 3 reasons to why Formula One is not the greatest sport. Number 1, the regulations this year are awful, genuinely awful. Like, I don't know who put them together. I won't go into that later. Number 2, Formula One has been partially rigged by the FIA. And number 3, there are so many less well-known sports which are just better. Okay, point 1. The regulations have done very little to nothing to improve racing. There's a lot of talk now about reliance on battery power. Drivers are going, "Oh, my battery's out, I can't do this, I can't do that." Yeah, well, that's the FIA's fault. Sorry about that. Sorry you can't go racing. So it's improved at the start, but no. But after around lap 8, it's the same old stuff. Woohoo! George Russell wins after leading all of the laps. Yippee! Great sport, isn't it? I find the politics outside the event more interesting than the actual racing itself, and that's a big problem. If you find that the politics outside the racing is more interesting than the actual event itself, you can't be called the greatest sport of all time.
On this?
No. Time to move a bit slower, isn't it? Right. That's pit stop done. Right. Second point. Formula One is partially rigged by the FIA. Not totally rigged.
Drivers do have a degree of free will. The FIA do like to pull some strings on the regulations though. For example, in the early 2000s, Ferrari were completely dominant. They won 5 world championships in a row from 2000 to 2004. So for 2005, the FIA thought, let's change things up a little bit. They made up some rule changes, and coincidentally, every single rule change seemed to go against Ferrari. Now the proposition might say, oh well, that was done to improve the racing. No, because I'm about to get some meaty stuff here. However, the only thing it did was reel Ferrari back in. Everyone else stayed in pretty much the same order. And this was announced late in the season to deliberately disadvantage Ferrari because they will have spent all of their time developing their car towards the start of the season. A more egregious example of the FIA pulling strings, well in this case it was FISA, which is the precursor to the FIA, was in 1984 with Tyrrell, were the only team to continue to run a non-turbocharged engine because they were convinced that it constituted as turbine power, which was illegal since 1971. All teams, including FISA, tried to change this rule by having votes, but votes had to be unanimous, so Tyrrell just kept blocking the vote. Until one race, the Detroit Grand Prix, I think it was, in 1984, when the car was pulled into scrutineering. They found a water tank, they tested the water and it contained 1% fuel. So they decided this is an opportunity to charge Tyrrell for taking on additional fuel during the race, which is not usable at all. Use of illegal fuel, it's not fuel. Equipping the car with illegal fuel lines, it's not fuel, so it's not fuel lines. And insecure ballast, the 140 pounds of lead shot that they put in the tank so they could run under weight. However, they argued, based on the 1984 Formula 1 Technical Regulations, Article 4.2, the 4.2, ballast can be used provided it is secured in such a way that it requires tools to remove it. I think you require tools to remove lead shot from a water tank inside a car. So
Well, you're explaining a lot of hindrances on why it could be better, but you haven't described why it is not the greatest sport of all time. You said why there's room for improvement.
I'm going to get to that. Calm down, okay? Calm down. Yeah, so they disqualified them. So then the next race, they could all gather together, go through the regulation, Bob's your uncle. Everyone's happy, except Tyrrell. Actually, also pit stop. Can't make this one too long. Hang on a minute. Other sports are just better. To say Formula 1 is the greatest sport requires every other sport to be worse. That's a given. But sports like snooker, golf, football, certainly worse than Formula 1. But there are many other sports which are better. The most obvious example is NASCAR. Yes, NASCAR is much better than Formula 1. So much more exciting, so much more adrenaline. The racing is much closer. You don't have Nikita Mazepin 3 laps behind every race. You know, they're also running centimeters from the wall, 200 miles per hour. Whereas Formula 1 drivers have 2 miles of runoff at every single corner. Formula 1 fans who say, this car's bad, but it's insecure, I think. Formula 1 is technically advanced, but whatever. Doesn't make it a great sport. We need great sports to have a sense of community instead of a toxic environment where we just try and compete against each other and, hate each other whenever someone comes up with a good idea. They go, oh, I don't like that, let's protest against that. Formula 1 gives off toxic vibes, but the proposition, the perceived status of being a Formula 1 fan keeps them clinging on. They need to man/woman up and let go. I thank everyone for listening to my speech.
That was a very fine speech, and to the case of the competition, I'd like to invite Beth to the podium, please.
So we've had a lot of yap today about why Formula 1 is necessarily bad and why rugby of all sports is better than it. But I don't want to focus on the lows of sports because there are some lows in Formula 1. I won't do it. Like every sport, there are some bad elements. Does it get boring from time to time? Sure. But does every sport not have that issue? What I want to argue is that the lows are the same for every sport, but the highs that Formula 1 brings you cannot be replicated in such a way that it makes the greatest sport in the world. Now, I'm going to do this for multiple points because I have them neat new now for the first time ever. The edits are fire. Women in STEM, multifaceted sport, the narratives, and better scandals. So let's start off with a pretty simple point that will lead into the rest of them. The edits are fire. The Abu Dhabi 2021 edits to Skyfall are so great. And watching all the Smooth Operator Carlos Sainz edits, fantastic. The Lost Scar Lacey edits, top from the top. Football is just some like guy kicking around the ball. Basketball are the Clay Thompson edits where they accuse him of being gay. Other sports are just kind of there, like darts, Luke Littler throwing something at the board. Yes.
Are you really going to say that Johnny Manziel edits are not the best edits of all time?
But it's of Johnny Mandel, so you I have to say that if I could choose an American footballer to be better for better edits, there are better ones out there. This leads into narratives. With, like, say, a sport like football, there's like 7 million sports in like every country, and it's so difficult to figure out who you should care about, who's actually good, who is this Spanish footballer coming to West Ham to live out his twilight years, what is going on. With Formula 1, there's only 20 out of 22 spots, and that has created some of the best, but unfortunately not heated rivalries as sports have ever seen. Prost Senna, Hunt Lauda created one of the best movies ever made. Hamilton Alonso, Hamilton and Rosberg, Mercedes, rest in peace. Hamilton and Verstappen, Hamilton and anybody. Yes, go ahead.
Doesn't the limited amount of people that can participate create an elitist and inaccessible sport for people to enter into?
I think every sport is inherently inaccessible when you look at the elite level, which is to say that it's always going to cost way more money. Football, you have to be able to dedicate time in your day to do this, to only do this. I mean, this is a very much like, if I haven't broken my knee, I'd be a pro by now kind of argumentation. I think every sport is inherently accessible, some more than others, and I don't deny it, but I have to say that when you look at the sport as a whole, and look at the highs that Formula 1 gives you, they're much better. And this brings me on to the scandals. Spygate, purposely stealing technological information, that's so fun, that's so cool. That really makes the concept. Crashgate, oh my god, purposely crashing your car in to like to allow your teammate to get through. Like that's so Fernando Alonso cool, like Bernie Ecclestone, like that ain't so bad. Michael Schumacher shunting Damon Hunt off the track, allowing Jacques Villeneuve to win the most fraudulent world championship until Lando Norris. That was so fun. Imagine the those of your sport. Like in football, it's a short Argentinian and a metrosexual Portuguese guy. In Formula 1, it's Lewis Hamilton, who's just really cunty, and Michael Schumacher, who's like an evil German guy, who's also kind of cunty. Yes.
So you're going off the cheating's the best part.
Cheating is so fun. Like in every other sport, it's like, oh, he did drugs, oh, he's faking an injury, like whatever, Bloodgate for rugby that I looked up 2 minutes ago. Every other sport has cheating. Football has fixed matches, you know. My dad's local team, Athlone, got bought by Lithuanians in the 80s, and they had massive match fixing scandals. Like every sport has a scandal, it's an inherent in the sport. But what if the scandals are fun? What if they're interesting? What if you want to be like, I want to know more, this is kind of fun? Like, yeah, like the scandals are the best part of any sport because it gets people interested, it gets people going, and it shows that sport is cool and interesting instead of like boring scandals like, oh, he like, I don't know, was doing, I don't know, drugs. Then also encouraging interest in multifaceted sport. Now, it may not look it here as I look into a room of mostly men, but most of the Formula 1 fans I know are women. And it has, since Drive to Survive, it has allowed sports to grow at the confines of sad nerds and to fun, sexy individuals who care about the sport. I've had humanities majors discussing downforce like in one of my lectures, they get really into nitty-gritty details. It gives me PTSD for the exams I have at the week, and I shouldn't be doing this big right now. It creates a real engagement in the subject that has been pretty inaccessible to women as a whole. I do engineering, and fun fact, I am part of 20% of women, and we're very proudly told this is the highest intake of women the course has ever seen, which is a very concerning figure, as Flynn would know. It also makes you smarter, and not even just for women, but in general, by making you look at the data. Like, as Baker said, analysing the data, caring, being like, oh, that strategy was like so good and cool, and now you've learned something, you're actually coming out of it, like, what are you going to do strategise in like football? Like, oh, he kicked the ball kind of weirdly, like, oh, we shouldn't have done that. Oh, we should actually like try and score a goal instead of passing it around for 20 minutes. Please, dear Lord, shoot the ball. In rugby, it's like, oh, this guy should pass it back better to his other teammates. He should, like, I don't know, not fumble the ball. But in Formula 1, you're looking at the data and you go like, oh, I know what's going on. I can really have an interest in yes, Lynn.
Do you not think that the just overwhelming amount of data would put people off it? You know, you come to Formula 1 and you see all this data, and it's just a bit off-putting. Do you not think that?
You've given me an excellent point now, Flynn, that I had not thought about before, which is, I think it's a big mention, but I'll expand on it, which is that there's more to Formula 1 than most other sports. There's more kind of accessibility in terms of the media you can watch around it. Like, you may not know, but like Bernie Collins, an alumni of this university, is really, really good on Sky in terms of breaking down the information. You've got all these people that are there, dedicated and qualified to tell you exactly what it means. There's some diva who does all the like explaining what these things mean, and it's really good. In watching Drive to Survive as an intro, people may have disagreements about it, but it is really great for like getting people involved in the narratives and then teaching them what downforce means, like teaching them at like each circuit, there's different kind of things for Ireland. But also like last one. So rugby being accessible, please guys, I am from Dublin, so I am biased, but everybody I know plays rugby goes to either Blackrock or the other ones. Representation of D4, but they're also just CTE goblins smashing into each other who will have not really lives to live after they get into it. NASCAR is just driving around in circles. I can't imagine how it's more interesting, and like tighter circles that are just, there's no corners to go around, guys, there's nothing interesting. And every other sport has their faults: boring, cheating, financial mismanagement. But only Formula 1 can reach the highs of every sport without reaching the boring lows. I thank you for listening, and I beg you to propose.
Thank you, Beth, for that very kind speech. And I put the case to the opposition and the debate as a whole. I'd like to invite Alexander to the podium, please.
Heads up, any POIs will be very grateful. There's not an awful lot here written, so please ship away as much as you can. So, good evening, folks. I am a big F1 fan. I watch every week without fail, and something that's been pointed out quite a lot in the proposition here is my love for the both sporting aspects in terms of the drivers themselves and the technical and engineering. I'm a bit of a nerd, for those who don't know. I do software engineering, and I love technical and nerdy stuff. And I brought a prop here just to prove the point of me being a fan, and it also gives me an excuse to show it to people, so it's really good. So this year I stole from the Belgian Grand Prix in 2022. I jumped onto the track and we were going to celebrate, and I wanted something to remember it. So myself, the friend I was there with, and stuff up there, and some random English fellow ripped it off the tyre wall. And I folded it up about 18 million times. You can see the folds are there. It was also about maybe 3 times the size of that when I took it off the wall. But yeah, sorry. That's just a further. Oh, yeah.
How do you fit that in your suitcase?
You can see actually the folds themselves. This is how it was folded to get the suitcase. But it was about, I think we measured it was about 14 feet long and 5 foot tall. And I took a stone from turn 1. Of the track and had to cut it up outside the track. I gave pieces to random people who wanted one as well, and just kept the namesake with Rolex and then their little icon or whatever you want to call it for the company. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted. But yeah, so the motion being F1 is the greatest sports of all time. Refer to your opinions of rugby. I'm sorry to say, but you are running system football. But anyway, by the by, F1 being the greatest sport of all time begs the question then of the alternatives. We're just here to hear from the proposition. Not really a single definitive alternative, really, in terms of opinion. Not something concrete to explain why there's something else that provides a better alternative to something else. We've heard about the engineering, so we say, advantages of Formula 1, and I'm a big fan of that. I love the engineering. But, yes?
Is there a sport that you can name that gives the fans more like input and control and knowledge about the sport than F1? Because that's like crux of our point.
And the big point you make, because you talk an awful lot about that. Talk an awful lot about that. But I'm going to show you some data as well. So there's currently a football match going on right now, and this is only a very small portion of the stats sheet for this match. It's Atletico Madrid versus Arsenal. Fortunately, Arsenal are winning. But just to go through some of them, we've got expected goals, shots on target, shots off target, block shots, possession, corner kicks, offsides, fouls, throw-ins, yellow cards, red cards, crosses, counter-attacks, goalkeeper saves, goal kicks. This goes on. You've listed other attacking properties in terms of per player and statistics as well, how many touches they make, the ground they cover in the match. And when it comes to data and the argument to say, oh, well, F1 provides more data for each of the drivers for the cars and provides more of a, shall I say, visual data experience, because of course you're taking in that data while you're watching. I just don't see that as a valid argument, because I think football is the exact same. In fact, from the two sides, but from the perspective of football as well, obviously, this is going to be, I'm not endorsing gambling here, but I'm saying that an argument I'm going to add on to this is to say that a huge portion of these kind of statistic things are for the gratification of gambling, for the gratification of the immense data-driven structure that football now has to follow in terms of whether it be tactics, managerial aspects of roles within teams and so on, or like I said, in terms of gambling and the enjoyment for drivers for watchers. Yes, sorry.
So the exclusive point on our side is that yes, you have data in football, for example, but that's derived from the information that you already have. In F1, you have a broader scope of information and data that allows you to be part of the process that you wouldn't have access to if you just watched it on TV.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I mean, the engineering side of things is something that you will never be able to remove, you'll never be able to remove that from F1, and you'll never be able to add it in the Formula 1. And I appreciate that it's a fair argument to make, but in terms of the, shall I say, best sport, it's more of an opinion. You know, it's for us nerds that love to watch and look at a TV and say, oh, this is fantastic. I know what the temperature of the background tyre is. But you know, it's only applicable for us nerds who want to see that. And in the end, I think in terms of the motion being what is the best sport, although we have our own opinions on what is the best, if it's going to be the best ever, I think it's important to look at the grand scheme of sports in the world and actually ask, well, I have my own opinion of it's football. Spoiler, I'm going to use that example here. But everyone has their own opinion. But in terms of watching, let's say, so for F1, 872 million people will watch Formula 1 throughout the year. Football, 3.5 billion. And that's obviously not even including if there's a World Cup on, maybe even higher than that. Money. Talking a lot about money in terms of how it's not a very accessible sport. In terms of money here, in terms of the revenue that each sport creates, we've got 40 to 50 billion in terms of money, or in terms of football, and we've only 3 to 4 in terms of Formula 1. Countries that are involved in it, over 200 have official FIFA competitions and licenses. And then for Formula 1, it's only 20 to 25, of course. And then in terms of actually being involved in the sport, you've got 250 million football and an F1. I'm sorry, I could have just had it all for you. But anyway, I'm just going to finish off here. I'm writing down statements of the proposition we're making to summarise why they think, or some of the things they've said about Formula 1 is good. Baker started off his speech with sweating down. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't know about you, but that doesn't overly fill me with much confidence in terms of a great sport. And talked about the data, how great it's fantastic, oh, I know what the back hair of Lewis Hamilton's leg is looking like. But talked about rules and how they change here and there. Football's rules and they change here and there, but in the end, something that you actually struggle to continually follow from year to year. You know, when someone from 30 years ago who plays football, it's the exact same pretty much. Someone from 30 years ago goes to Formula 1. It's a completely different ballgame. Hang on, I'll take a look. Beth, actually, sorry, yes, Beth, I'm sorry. Edits are fire. I'm going to slam this down a little bit because when you're saying that one of the best things about your sport is when they summarise an hour and a half or they cut down entire races or situations in only a couple of seconds, I'm sorry, I'm not having it. Yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander, for that very fine speech, and to all of our debaters for what you've been a very interesting debate. But you're not quite over the finish line yet, as it is now time for our question from the House. Members of the House, this is your chance to interrogate some of the points you heard tonight and maybe explore a bit further some of the arguments, or perhaps something you felt was not engaged with during the debate. So, do I have any questions for the proposition first? Yes, Jonathan.
Given that going to an F1 match requires a lot of money in terms of tickets, it requires a lot of money in terms of flights and hotels. If you want to watch it on the television, it requires a lot of money to have a Sky Sports membership. And given that the three people speaking in favour of F1 tonight are the Yorkshire man who sounds like he was born anywhere but, the Welshman who calls himself Tory Tom despite what the Tories did to the Welsh industry, and the Dubliner whose mother is an ambassador, do we really think there could be an elitism problem within the sport?
Absolutely not, no. Thank you. Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yes, I'm taking this one.
I just want to clarify, it's not me who calls myself Tory Tom, it's Matthew Sparrow.
I personally, I would say that, you know, that's an issue. But you should socialise, you should go to a friend, you should go to like the Rusty Goat, and you should go where they have a subscription, you can watch it for free. You can have a pint of whatever shit you drink, and you can watch it with friends for nearly free, probably £4.50. You can watch it, you can pirate it, you can go on YouTube and watch bits of the races, like, you know, there's cracker ways to get it done. But, you know, you say that, but going to a World Cup match costs, like, God knows how much money, you know. You have to pay for flights, accommodation, you have to pay like 30 grand to shake some slimy Argentinian's hand. Like, it's the same with anything, and watching it, you know, you've got to pay for Sky Sports if you want to watch certain other sports like American football. I mean, that's shit, but people pay for it. You know, pay 20 quid to have a good time, that's what I'd say.
Thank you, Michael. Ron from the opposition.
I don't appreciate you endorsing illegal activities such as pirating things.
That's true,
but, you know, Formula 1, I recently looked online because I was looking to go to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. They were looking at something like, I think it was like £1,100 for tickets each. So that if I would bring just me and my dad, that'd be over £2,000. Then you have to include flights, then you have to include hotels, which will go through the roof because Formula 1's in time. You know, so it will all come over to about £5,000, and it's ridiculous. It is the definition of elitist, is whenever you have greedy capitalists wanting your money. And then you say the World Cup, it's expensive. Right, that's one thing every 4 years. I think it has the right to be expensive.
Super Bowl, Premier League.
Yeah, you're back and forth, unfortunately. Thank you for that. Flynn, now we have a question for the opposition. Yes, Cal?
Yes, one speech, I think, on the opposition, I think I might have been the first one, sorry to catch you out, saying that leaving proposed cars were a massive part of Formula 1 that is kind of automatically disqualified because the best sport then turns into like an engineering competition or whatever it was. But I just want to ask, like, does this also apply to notoriously difficult and dangerous sports such as like horse riding, whether it be racing or jumping or whatever? Because like wouldn't that also be disqualified because it could just be passed up as like a horse breeding competition? Because I know, like, as someone who has been around horses my entire life, if you put a bunch of horses in a field, the fastest one's not going to win. It's just not. It is because they need that support and direction from the jockey to achieve that. Like, I would be much riding my entire life. and it's an incredibly difficult sport. And I just feel like, couldn't we say the same thing about F1? Like, I do love the jokes, like, vroom vroom, richest guy, fastest car wins, but, you know, it's, like, I really doubt if you put a bunch of, like, inexperienced people into this car, that still just the fastest one to win. I would say that, you know, the human ability to control something like a powerhouse horse or a car that goes 200 miles per hour is a show of amazing human achievement. And I just want to know, like, do the best sports have to be fully human, or is anything like horse racing, cycling, boat rowing, and of course everyone immediately disqualified because they use a tool, whether it be a car, a horse, a boat or a bike?
Thank you, Catherine. Someone from the opposition?
I do get your point about the horse riding, and I think the horse is like everyone was just there bred from a young age, and the car was built. But the point I was making was sport is a human endeavour, and that's been since the day of causing. That's the best sport. The best sport is about human drama, it's about the momentum swing, and Formula 1 doesn't add up. When it comes to those human aspects, that's where Formula 1 fails. I know it's because it's another sport, regardless of the thing, but if you're considered the best sport of all time, it has to be consistent on all fronts, and 3 for it doesn't. So that's why I'm hoping it's not the best sport of all time.
Thank you, DC. Response from the proposition?
Yeah, I think it's inherent in all sports that some people are built for certain sports and some people aren't. Like, if you look at F1 drivers, like the neck on them, like in a very genuine way, it's absolutely massive. Like, if you try and like the G-force is insane, and you do need to be able to be like a peak physical athlete. Like what they lose like 5 kilos in a race like that. And I do think that is like peak athleticism, but like outside of sports that do actually require like, you know, equipment to them. Like there is just a thing with some people just inherently better in sport. Like Michael Phelps had 1 feet, so he was a better swimmer. That's not like that's an unfair advantage, but it is a human advantage that's unfair. And certain people, like, it's always going to be a thing. Certain footballers are just better than other footballers, and that's something we just have to accept in life. So I think there is always going to be an inherent unfairness in sports because you can never make everybody the exact same person with the exact same skill levels and whatnot. So I think, yeah.
Thank you, Beth. And now with the checkered flag in sight, I will take abstaining questions. This is a question evenly to both the proposition and the opposition. If your question starts with, well, this one applies with the proposition, or this one applies with the opposition, they have no choice but to use my gavel directly at your head. So, do we have any abstaining questions in the house tonight? Or alternatively, would anyone like to hazard an abstaining question?
What if we go to the vote?
Yes, I'm sure we could go round and round and round and round in circles talking about F1, but now we'll bring it on to the verdict. Which side will be taking victory lap and which side will be in the Brad pits? That is for you to decide based on the metrics of presentation, rhetoric, argument, teamwork and engagement. So can I have all those who wish to vote for the proposition for the vote on speaker ability to raise their hands now, please? That is 6. And can I have all those who wish to vote for the opposition for the vote on speakability to raise their hands now, please? That is 4. And finally, can I have all those who wish to abstain on the motion to raise their hands now, please? Oh, that's 6 as well. So with 6 votes for the proposition, 4 votes for the opposition, and 6 abstentions, the proposition takes it. The motion passes. Of course, to make such an amazing collaboration, we need another society to collaborate with. I'm very pleased to say that this marks a milestone in terms of our 10th Grand Campus Tourney debate. It's great to see. And also I'm incredibly glad to see that sporting societies are getting involved with debating, which is one of the reasons why we launched the Grand Campus Tourney initiative, to get more societies involved in debating across campus. And to tell us a bit more about our friends from the Motorsports Club, I'd like to invite standing President Alexander to
Just to clarify, I am actually not the official president, but unfortunately he was unable to attend this evening and he has asked me to briefly give a small statement on his behalf, so I shall give it to you now. So, hello all. The Motor Club is a newly started sports club as of this year. We currently have just over 120 members. Our main focus is to bring together those who enjoy motorsports, create a community where we can meet regularly to partake in go-karting, simulator racing, Red Bull tasting, and some F1 fantasy. We have established successful partnerships with Nuts Corner and Eddie Irvine's. Red Bull Ireland supply us with drinks for our events, and we have even had exchanges with F1 merchandise companies. We're still looking at expanding with looking at regular, low-cost use of the F1 simulator at Queen's Reboot Cafe, and are looking to expand events inside the Students' Union itself. So if there's, I know earlier on this year I was away go-karting with them, and it was good crack. Unfortunately I didn't win. They got green though, so I've got something to come out with. I was sorry?
You got third.
I did. I was pretty chuffed with it, although unfortunately the two people ahead of me were probably like the half a mile ahead, so it was a third though, so I'll take it. But no, and I think there'll be at some point as well, there'll be another karting in the next coming, I think, month or two, but don't quote me on that, because again, I'm actually not part of the committee, so please don't. If you, I'm happy to answer any questions you do have, but if you do have any questions or queries or want to get in touch with them, they have an Instagram, which I actually can't remember what it's called. I think it's QUBMC, that's the one. So I would encourage you to get in touch. It's good crack, good fun, if you like F1, you'll love it, so thank you.
And now just some quick announcements of what we've got going on in the Terrific for the incoming weeks, which you're all of course invited to as you were to this debate. On the 6th of May we will be having our 11th and final Grand Campus Tourney debate with the Alt Society on the motion "This House believes alternative culture is inherently political." I see some of the speakers who will be speaking on that in this room, and the good news is we will be in the Senate room for that debate, so please join us. That is May 6th. For that, we then have on the 8th of May a collaboration debate, which is very exciting. We have now formed a tri-provisional partnership with debating societies in Galway and Cork, and we'll be travelling down to Galway to celebrate not only their 180th birthday, but also take part in the inaugural debate, so please make sure to join us for that. And also I'm pleased to announce that tomorrow night myself and some other members of council will be going to the Students' Union Awards, where we've been nominated for the Best Society at Queen's and also the Best Student-Led Activity, so congratulations to everyone who's been involved in that. And with that, as always, if I could have councils from 177 and 178 to stay behind and set up the room, our excellent speakers to the front, I'll see the rest of you at the Students' Union. I call this meeting adjourned.
You too, because I've got my morals.